So I'm just kind of getting used to being like in a fandom space, kind of impersonal a little bit.
It's a little weird, huh?
Yeah, it's a
These
little
people are weird.
but it's comforting.
Is it comforting?
It is actually comforting.
Good.
I see a lot of familiar faces. But my question was, I mean, you've been observing fan communities and fandoms for such a long time now, and kind of how do you think, like through your eyes, the Supernatural fandom has changed after the shows ended? Like, what do you see at the conventions? Or do you notice any change?
Well, we haven't had, to be honest with you, that much time in the post-airing of Supernatural window, and there's still some people who are watching the show on Netflix, and like, there are still new members of the fandom. I think there's one of you here now. Anyone? 2.5 people. But I'm shocked that there are still people here. And you are nodding in agreement. You're like, yeah, what the hell is going on? I think that the Supernatural fandom over time has morphed. So from my vantage point, I think when I first started coming to conventions, it felt like what I would have expected a fan convention to feel like. It was like fans of a show and actors showing up and having an interaction. But over the almost 15 years now that I've been attending these, I've noticed that it seems like the Supernatural fandom has morphed into a little subculture. Like there's almost a language and an ethos of this particular fandom that feels unique to me. I don't know because I don't have a lot of exposure to other fandoms, but it feels like there's a little bit more of an identity that is wrapped up in the fandom itself. I don't know if that's true. This is my perception. But I think that gives it maybe a little bit of cohesion and longevity past the life of the show. And I don't think that I've seen much of a change, although I think that there's a little quality in the fandom of like, what's next? What are we going to do next? What's happening next? And I think that it feels like there's an appetite in the fandom for sticking with some of these, cast members and sticking with each other, but also looking for what the next thing is. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it's just me projecting my own feelings. What's next? What is next? What are we going to do now, folks? It's like our kids that wake up on the weekend and they're like, what are we going to do? What are we doing today? What?
Yes, the hospital.
I did ask. What was that other recommendation you had? Okay. Don't ask? No. Oh, okay. Now I really want to know. What's your feeling?
I think, well, the spin-off, I think, is that thing that a lot of people are putting a lot of steam behind, especially with the diversity and inclusion and representation. I feel like I can see that reviving a lot of people, and those kind of, attitudes are more present in our fandom now, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, in terms of the feelings, I think it's pretty much the same. I mean, this is my first time coming to Atlanta as a convention. I moved here a couple months ago, but I really like it, and I really like, just being in the community is nice again. Seeing you is nice again. Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up the diversity and inclusion, because it is an interesting phenomenon. I mean, watching the change over time with the Supernatural fandom, it's always been, I think, a very inclusive and diverse group of fans, albeit almost all female. But it's also interesting that we're mostly straight white guys, and I would love to see an evolution of the general fandom where that is no longer true, where it's not just a bunch of straight white guys, but there are other people represented up here in greater numbers. But it's also been interesting to watch over time how values have changed. Like when I first started going to conventions, I think I at some point like said something about slash fiction or fan fiction or something, and everybody was like, "Don't talk about that." And now it's like, "Oh yeah, Misha, just can you stop talking about that?" You know, like the tone has really changed, and there's a lot more openness and acceptance, and I like that. I like that evolution, and it's nice to see the communities involved with that.
Thanks.
Thanks.